This is not a failure. I know it seems like a failure. I know it feels like a failure when these things happen. It's a setback, and that's all it is. Hello, everybody. Matt from Just Stack It, and I wanted to take a moment today to have a heartfelt conversation. I want to talk about something that may come off as a little bit controversial, and that is selling a part of your hard-acquired silver stack or also numismatic collection. After all, we stack silver and numismatics because we believe in the inherent value of these things. And the hope is that over time, those assets will appreciate in value. At the very least, they will not depreciate as fast as something like the dollar will. But sometimes situations arise where we may need to sell or offload some of our stack or our collection to cover some financial needs or maybe an emergency that has come up. And that's okay. It's okay to sell a portion of your stack. It's okay if you absolutely have to sell the whole thing. If that's truly what's needed, then that's why we stack. We do this, yes, for the hope of a longer-term financial gain of some form, but primarily we're doing it as a safeguard, a financial piggy bank, so to speak. That way we have something when these things come up. There have been a few members of the community there in December who had vehicle troubles and other related issues, and they had to go off and explain that and offload some of their things for probably much less than they would have otherwise wanted to offload. Unfortunately, these things happen, but I don't want you as a stacker or collector to get discouraged if this happens. It's normal. It is why we stack. Let's remind ourselves why we stack. For most of us, it's a financial goal to set money aside in a different form that's harder to spend. A lot of stackers, as I said in my previous video, have found that stacking silver and other precious metals and collectibles has enabled them to actually save where they had trouble before. We do this as a financial safeguard in hopes of a better return in the future. We're essentially building a savings account through precious metal and numismatic collection that we can draw from when needed. And that's the case in these situations. Now, I'm not saying that you should sell your stack at the first sign of financial trouble or turmoil. But if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like selling some of your stack could alleviate a financial setback or hardship that you're experiencing, then by all means, find out what you need to do, the best course of option, and sell a portion of your stack. That's why we have them. It's important to remember this is not a failure. I know it seems like a failure. I know it feels like a failure when these things happen. It's a setback, and that's all it is. And actually, not near as big a setback because you were able to liquidate some assets and help cover that. It hurts, and I understand that, but it's not a bad thing, and you're in a better position than you otherwise may have been had you not had those assets to liquidate. Now let's talk about what to do once you've decided to sell your stack. First thing that you need to do is figure out your timeline. Do you need this money today? If so, you may suffer a little bit of that urgency in the price point that you're forced to sell at. If you have a little bit more time, you can look at other avenues. But if it's a today kind of thing, you're probably most likely looking at someone you know that may have that amount of liquid cash or a coin shop. Now, you're at their mercy. My advice in these situations, I know if the time's ticking and you're in a rush, do your best not to show that to them or say anything like that when you're there attempting to negotiate a sale. Now, in some shops, this doesn't matter. Their prices are pretty much set for their buybacks, based on market conditions, and it's not going to make a whole lot of difference to them what your situation is. But a lot of shops, if they get that hint or you seem nervous or anxious or in a hurry to sell these items, they may offer you less than they otherwise would because they know that you're showing signs of needing to sell this quick, fast today, and they know they can capitalize on that. So do your best not to show the urgency if you're forced to sell in the short term. Now, if you have more time, you can look for different things. There's always the weekly flea markets on YouTube. There's Trade Day. They let people come up and attempt to sell items. If you don't want to come up on video, you can send in emails. It's a lovely way to try to offload some of those items if you have more time. Another key when you have more time is going to be doing your research. Figure out what the current going prices are for the items you're trying to get rid of. Look at eBay sold listings that are in the recent past. Look at some of the larger bullion dealers have buyback programs, and you can go on their website and actually look up. JM Bullion is probably the best one that comes to mind. You can go on there and look up tons of different items, and they will show you online without calling anybody what they would buy that back from you today for. And this can give you an idea of the price points that you're looking at if you're going to liquidate. So do that research, because even though you're selling some of your stack, you still want to do two things. You want to be enticing to buyers, but number two, you want to get the most out of it that you can. So you have to find that balance in that sale of enticing buyers with a good deal, but also you need it to sell because you need the liquid assets. So keep that in mind as you're pricing your items. The worst thing to do in that case is to price them too high, and then they don't sell and you're in the same situation. And finally, don't beat yourself up over having to sell some of your items. Remember, this is why you stack in the first place or collect coins. This is the primary reason, to have that financial security and be able to sleep knowing that you're in a place that's good if these things come up. If you find yourself in a position where you need to sell some of your silver or numismatics, it's okay. Just make sure you have a clear plan of how you're going to execute that strategy of sale and get yourself out of that hardship as quick as possible and back onto the road of acquiring precious metals and other collectibles. I appreciate everybody watching today. I wanted to ask the question what your thoughts were on the topic today. Have you ever had to sell some of your collection? And how did that make you feel at the time? Leave a comment below. Let's have a discussion. I appreciate everyone's time and attention. I will see you in the next video, and happy stacking.